So, about 15 years ago, I was looking at moving up to Northumbria, of all places, and went looking at houses with my ex-partner. And we went to this house. It was a big house, but it was split in two. So you went into a central hallway, there was a staircase, and then the house went like that. So if you can imagine a 2-story white wall up the staircase that was just filled with family portraits, from little 5x7s up to 30x40s, and it was just literally filled. And you could see there was different generations. But all of these just sat there cohesive together. That actually, if you didn't know the people that were in the pictures, and you didn't know their ages, if you took away the things like hairstyles and things like that, you would never actually know when those photographs were taken. They could have been taken in 2000, they could have been taken in 1940. And that really grew a love for me of the purity of black and white portraiture. And black and white imagery, full stop. When I used to shoot weddings, I would have loved it if somebody came to me and said, just shoot black and white. I would have been really happy with that. So, that's where my love of black and white comes from. So why is it still popular? 100%. Timeless. There is nothing that will date black and white portrait other than the styling in it. And this also takes me back to when I was learning more about portraiture, and I'm a little bit, anybody who knows me, I'm a little bit obsessive about details. I also never stand still. So that's how I get home from the studio when I've done 10,000 steps. But I'm obsessive about details. So when I was learning photography, I researched portraiture and like who were the masters and who were the best and all of that. And one name came up, and it was a guy called Montezuma. And he was the king of portraiture. And he was also, there was Paul Yaffe in this country and there was Montezuma in America. So I scoured eBay to find Montezuma's books on portraiture. And I bought them all. And I sat at home expectantly waiting for the postman to come. And I got these books, and first thing, this is naivety here. This is the curve that you go on as you learn it. I opened these, I flicked through them and went, it's garbage. That is so out of date. Look at that posing's rubbish, that's rubbish, that's rubbish. And then I came back to them about 2 years later, when I'd grown up. And I looked at them and went, right, okay, let's get objective at this, let's look at it properly. And I looked, and I took away the clothes that they were wearing. Not literally took away the clothes, because it wasn't that kind of book. Took away the clothes that they were wearing, took away the hairstyles, and I actually looked at the posing. And in between those times, I spent a lot of money on my National Trust membership, visiting stately homes and looking at art, and looking at the way people were painted. And when I looked at those books, and I looked at, it took away that styling, took away that hairstyling, you know, the 80s glow with the backlight, and all of that, what I actually saw was amazing work. And that's what black and white gives you as well, because it helps to remove that styling element a little bit. It just never dates. It's as simple as that. It's really crap that you can't see these actual slides and the pictures, because I am actually quite proud of this kind of work. I remember to press play, Colin, at recording it. That picture there that you can't see properly is what I call my 20 grand portrait, because that picture added 20 grand to my business when I was a portrait photographer, because it won me Child Portrait Photographer of the Year with the societies. And what I did with that is market it that I was the best in my area. Yeah? And that little girl walked into the studio dressed like that. That's her coat that she's still got on with a little ribbon on it. And before her mum went to take her coat off for a portrait session, I went, just stop her for 1 minute, let me put a light on. I set the light up, I already had the background up, I put her in front of it, I shot that picture. That was one frame, the first frame. And once I'd taken that, I didn't care about the rest of the shoot, because I knew I'd got that shot. Funnily enough, I had to persuade Mum to buy that shot when it came to the actual viewing. She bought loads of others, but she wasn't like over enamoured in that, because she wasn't in a pretty dress like this. And so, what I loved about it is the fact that she's just got a simple coat on with a little fake fur collar, a little ribbon. She's got that beautiful curly hair. But you can't tell me when that was taken. It could have been any time over the last 60, 70 years. No problem at all. And actually, to go back to my fellowship panel, this was actually titled The People That Walk Through My Studio Door. Because there's everything in it, from going up to see Trevor Yerbury and shooting in his studio, and shooting him at the bottom, and actually shooting children coming through the studio door, families coming in, and people in those families. And there's a guy next to Trevor, I don't know if you know, so the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 from the left on the bottom. The old guy with the craggy face. And he was actually the grandfather of the girl that's at number 9 on the top row, so next to last on the left. And he'd just come to bring her for a model portfolio update. And at the time, the Flash Centre had lent me a Phase 1 camera, medium format digital at the time. It was worth about 50 grand. And they just sent me, I only had the standard 80mm lens for it, and they sent me through the post that day a 200mm lens. And he was sat there, and while he was sat and I'm photographing her and she was getting changed, not while she was getting changed, I didn't photograph her there because that would be wrong, the lens arrived. And while she was getting changed, I just asked him if he'd just step in front of the camera and just take a portrait with it, see what it looked like. And it was one of those, when you click that button, you get those few moments where you go, that's it, I've got it. And that was one of those shots. So yeah, they were just people that I photograph every day, like you guys in the audience here. The other thing I love about black and white is it helps eliminate the styling. Anybody that knows me, I'll send out a studio guide for all these people that are coming for a portrait session. And I send it out so that they can just deliberately ignore it. Right? So I'll say, come with corresponding tones, come with items that don't clash with each other. So, you know, I've got a gentleman here in a plaid shirt or a check shirt, and a lady here with a geometric pattern dress. Now, if you put those together, it's not going to look great from a styling point of view. You both look wonderful individually, but together it's not going to work. So you send out all these guides about, you know, oncoming light tones or dark tones and denim and match and things like that, and then they turn up with one in a cricket shirt, one in a rugby shirt, one in 14 shades of floral, and somebody else in 14 other shades of floral, and that's what you've got to deal with. So like, for example, in this portrait here, the lady is wearing a red dress, red cocktail dress. The rest are all in black. Now in colour, she becomes the only person you see in that image. And actually in a family portrait, that's what I really want. But to give them the option in black and white where everyone has equal gravitas also works. So that's a big thing for me, so it helps get rid of styling issues. At the Societies in 2019 at the convention, I think it was 2019, but it might have been 21, I can't remember. Tony Hewitt, a really well-known Australian landscape photographer, was my chair of judges on my judging panel in the portrait room. And he made us every morning introduce ourselves to the audience. So we've got Kelly Brown standing up. I'm Kelly Brown from Australia. I'm a newborn and family photographer. You've got, I forgot who else was in the room, but Sanjay, who's specialises in Asian weddings. And he's like, right, introduce yourself. And I stood up and I went, I'm a photographic prostitute. And his face just dropped. And I went, what that means is, if you're paying me, I will shoot it. As long as it's legal, I will photograph it. So I shoot all genres, and we still shoot all genres in the studio at Click. So, for example, this weekend there's makeovers, there's boudoir, there's family shoots, there's superheroes, there's fairies, and they're all over that weekend. And what's wonderful about black and white is you're not stuck to a genre with it. It suits all genres. You know, whether it be outdoor fashion in Lille that nearly got me arrested. So me and Simone, the model, were on the way to the graphic studio Castle in Italy, and we stopped up, we drove across, like that, because you drive like that, don't you? We drove across and we were stopping in France, Belgium, Germany, Austria and Italy on the way, and we were photographing all the way. So I didn't realise that's the Royal Courthouse in Lille, and you can't photograph public buildings. like that in France without seeking authorization. So let me rephrase that. We have got her into that dress. It's 39 degrees Celsius. And literally we stepped out of the car and you're just drenched. It was so hot and humid. So we managed to get her into this silk dress that stuck to every part of her body as you're trying to pour her into it. Not literally, but. And I'm doing that, and then we've got a set, and then we see this doorway, and it's just beautiful, and I'm like, right, we're doing it. And I've actually got Mark Cheatham, when he used to work for Pentax, I've got his 645 kit, and I've got the Phase 1 kit. So I'm wandering around the streets of Lille with about 90 grams worth of camera kit, and the beautiful Simone. See that doorway, put her in it, take that shot, not knowing there's a full busload of gendarmes parked there, who then approached me and wanted to know why I'd taken photographs outside the courthouse, and I just thankfully they were gentlemen of a certain maturation. But when I pointed out that look at this beautiful girl and how pretty she looks in front of this building, they let me carry on and do it. Yeah, and it's a bit of a philosophy of mine. It stems back to my days in the police service that it's always easier to seek forgiveness than ask permission with certain things. So that nearly got me arrested, that shot, but it was fine. But then you've got simple fashion, headshots, and you've got the geekiest man I've ever met in my entire life. And I thought, he needs a shot like Einstein, because he is like an uber computer tech geek and he needs some headshots. So I thought, right, great. So it does suit all genres, it really does. And that's why I love black and white. So let's get to the important bit. What makes a good black and white portrait? And they're quite good. They're alright, honestly. They look way better on my screen than they do on there. First and foremost, black and white is not the way to polish a amount of defecation. Right? It is not a way to rescue something that has just been so badly shot that it looks like something that should never have seen the light of day. So that first and foremost, you need good lighting. And this is the same for any portrait. You know, in 15 years of photographing people, about 5,000 women, over 1,000 families, and lots of other things as well, nobody has ever come to me and said, can you light me in such a way that makes me look really ugly? So it's about knowing your lighting patterns and knowing what will suit your customer or friend or just whoever you're photographing, and making sure that what you're doing is complementary to them. So that's really important. So you've got to learn, you know, your Rembrandts, your butterflies, your loop lighting, and all of that. You've also got to understand that for black and whites to work effectively, you need contrast. So if you're one of these people that likes very flat lit images, then stay away from black and white. Because when you haven't got contrast in a black and white image and you haven't got colour to give you dimensionality, if you have no tonal range and no contrast, you will get very poor lighting and very poor black and white images. And it's about learning simple things, simple portrait rules, like a feminine presenting portrait should have between 1 and 2 stops of contrast. A masculine presenting portrait is 2 to 3 stops of contrast. Which means when I'm photographing families that are mixed, then I always go for 2 stops. Because it means that I'm ending up with something. Now that doesn't mean I'm not going to shoot a feminine presenting subject with 3 or 4 stops of contrast. I'm going to do what's right for the image. Yeah? Flat lit, remember this saying, if you ever photograph people, and I can say shoot in the UK, I've been teaching in America recently, you don't say shoot people over there, you say photograph people. But just remember this saying, flat light is fat light. Because when you flat light something, you remove shadows, you remove dimensionality within that image. And when something doesn't have that push me, pull me effect of shadows and depth, then everything just looks round and fat. And funnily enough, nobody's ever said, can you take me a photograph that will make me look really fat? Tonal range. I've got a wonderful Fujifilm GFX 100 Mark II there. It's my new baby. had it 18 months, and it's like, I'd actually give up my child instead of that. And it has this massive dynamic range of about 14 and a half stops. So that means between pure white and pure black, you can capture 14 plus stops of graduations. So I'll let you into a little secret though. Have you ever taken a photograph and it doesn't look the way you see it? And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but it doesn't look. Well, that's because the human eye has between 20 and 22 stops of dynamic range. So your camera can never capture what the eye can see. Things like iPhones are really clever because they process the file and actually create a bracketed exposure that gives you that dynamic range. But let's go back to this. So this has 14 plus stops of dynamic range. So between pure white and pure black, you can capture 14 stops of tones. All my work is prepared for print because to me it's an image, it's not a photograph until it's printed. But also I want every single shot that I take, I want it to be print ready. And if you get it print ready, it will still look great on screen, but it will also print. If you go the other way and get it what looks great on screen, it doesn't mean it will print. Because the best inkjet printer will give you about 8 to 8.5 stops of dynamic range. So if you've got that image that's got those rich colours, rich saturation, rich tonal range, particularly if you've shot in RGB and processed in RGB, when you then try and print it on a printer or with a laboratory that only uses sRGB, which 99% of them do, it won't look the same as it does on your screen. So in effect, when I'm preparing my lighting and preparing my files, I'm dumbing that camera down and making sure that I've got a maximum of 8 stops. Now for day-to-day printing, when you send your prints off to a print lab, they still use a photographic process. So it's still a light onto photographic paper that creates your image. Photographic process only has 7 stops of dynamic range. So my whole workflow, whether colour or black and white, starts at sRGB, at capture, I process in sRGB, and I output at sRGB. Because what is the point of capturing colours and ranges and processing colours and ranges, and colours are important for black and white, which I'll come on to, that I then can't print. Yeah, and it's a step that a lot of people forget. Any people here enter camera club competitions? Yeah, printed? Yeah? And you've spent all that time working on that file, and then you print it and it looks absolutely nothing like what you've prepared. Particularly with rich reds, rich blues, rich purples, greens. That's because you're working outside the cab like a printer. Graphics Studio will say they can print RGB on their Super HD. Graphics Studio say that. Who's got calibrated screen? Oh, shame on the rest of you. Because you don't know what your colours are doing unless your screen is calibrated. And if I hear one person tell me that a Mac screen doesn't need calibrating, we may have a quiet word outside. Because mine are all Mac screens and they do need calibrating, apart from my BenQ, but that also needs calibrating. But you know that if you pay all that money for a beautiful Apple display, what you're actually doing is a very well presented LG monitor. Because LG produce the screens for Apple. Just charge you 4 times the price. And I'm an Apple fan. So black and white does not instantly polish an image, right? What it can do is dumb down colour clashes and all of that, but it will not instantly polish an image. However, there is one time when black and white might save you. It's not something I advocate. But those that shoot weddings, there's a saying in the wedding photography world, ISO. I step outside. And when you're shooting in a church or in a dim lit venue and you've got your ISO up at like 3,200 or something like that, or 6,400, and then you're doing them walking down the aisle, coming out all happily married and kissing and all those people weeping, and then you step outside and the first shot that every 1970s, 1980s photographer wants is the couple in the doorway of the church, and So you've gone from ISO 6400 at 2.8 inside, and then you go outside and you're at F16 sun, and you forget to change your ISO, and you've just got this beautiful picture of two polar bears in a snowstorm. Yeah, with just a couple of eyes showing because it's so overexposed. Now, I know with my Fujifilm, and there are other cameras, there's also Sony, there's also Canon, there is no Nikon here, but that's because they make good doorstops. No, actually, they make. I am such an arsehole, yes, thank you. But my Fujifilm, I can recover about 4 to 5 stops of overexposure. So sometimes, what you can get that file back when you've made that cock up, and I've made that cock up. I'll hold my hand up. But you can then recover it, but what you'll find is it will mush the skin tones. So then you might just have a way of putting a 5x7 in the album if you recover that file to black and white. But it's not something I advise doing. So when I shoot weddings now, I set a custom button up, one for my indoor, one for my outdoor, and I just to change the ISO instantly like that. But pretty much all cameras now, I've got auto ISO, so that can be a bit of a life changer. Retouching is so important. So important, and even more so with black and white for me. And I was going to show you some pretty pictures, but you can't see them. But they're pretty, promise. And then some more, these grumbly headshots. When I retouch black and white, it's a whole process for me. It's not just click a button, black and white adjustment layer, done. When I first started photography, a lot of people for black and white used Nik Software Silvery FX. Yeah? I actually know the guy that sold that software to Google for £93 million. He's currently on a yacht somewhere off Mali, off the coast of America, living his best life. I'm a little bit anal, and I need to know. So pressing a button, so I've got all these different black and white conversions, doesn't work for me. Because all of these things, whether it be skin software plugins and all of that use Photoshop, all they're doing is actually shortcutting what you can do in Photoshop. So I have to know how it all works. So I spent a lot of time looking at my black and white adjustment layers, looking at different ways of doing. Never just convert to grayscale, unless you want the dullest black and whites you can ever do. But doing black and white adjustment layers and manipulating the colours in an image. So if you don't do this, don't do it this way, whether it be landscapes, portraits, macro, whatever. But for me, if I'm say shooting, my partner has got red hair, she's ginger. In fact, her name's Emma, and quite often I'll shout Emma across the supermarket and she won't hear me because there's like a million Emmas in the world. But if I shout Gin, she replies. I checked that there was nobody else of such follicular nature before I said that, but she will reply to that. But, so if I want to shoot Emma and she's got red lipstick on and a red dress, if I do a black and white conversion on that, I've got a lot of reds to deal with. Reds in skin, reds in the dress, reds in the lip, reds in the hair. The way I do it is to do like a reverse colour pop. Do you know what I mean by colour popping? Something we all did. When we start photography, you've got the red foam box in a black and white picture. All of those things. Yeah, all the stuff that you look back on now and go, yeah, done that. So I do the reverse of that. So I will do one black and white adjustment layer, and I might just do it to adjust the tones in the hair, and then I'll mask off everything else. So I'll end up with black and white hair and nothing else. Then I'll do another one for the lips. Then I'll do another one for the dress and get that to where I want it to be in darkness and lightness. And then I'll do one for the skin. And I will do that multiple times to get the different colours that I want in an image, to the tonal range that I want. Does that make sense? So here, I quite often, if I'm deliberately shooting black and white, will use green or blue backdrops. Because no matter what the skin tone is, if it's, you know, Cumbrian blue, or like this gentleman's legs that are definitely having their first outing this year. Oh, they were out last week. And really pale skin to the darkest of black skin. There is only two colours in that. There's red and yellow. So they're the colours I'm going to manipulate for skin. But if there's anything else in the image, it's red or yellow, I might mask it off to manipulate that to the tones that I want to do. You know, and this will work for your landscapes and things like that as well. You know, if you've got that red house that you want to stand out in that image, but you've also got a red sky, if you just do a straight black and white conversion, something's going to be light or too dark. And doing it individually is how I do it. And that's my process from thought to finish. So I'll use red, green or blue backdrops if I'm deliberately shooting black and white because they do not exist in skin. So I can make that backdrop pure white or pure black in my final image by manipulating that colour slider. Yeah? Some images just don't work in black and white. So I've deliberately shot this image, which isn't overexposed, and it isn't dull as dishwater, but I deliberately shot it on a light grey background, and they've got cream tones of white on the clothing. So what the colour version has that beautiful softness to it that just gives that harmonising. You convert it to black and white and it's flat as a flat thing. It's dull as dishwater, no matter what I do to that, because all those tones are virtually in the same spectrum, it isn't going to go anywhere. There is a cheap way around that. Because what I do with that, if I actually wanted to get that black and white, I'm not going to do loads of curve layers and degrade that file and break it all up. But if I do a black and white adjustment layer on top of that colour layer, I bring down the reds and the yellows, affecting the skin tones and making them darker within the image, and I then convert that layer from a normal blend mode to soft light. What happens with a soft light blend mode is anything that is lighter than mid-tone grey goes lighter, anything that's darker goes darker, and I then produce an image with much more contrast. It'll also increase the saturation, but that doesn't matter in a black and white image because what I want is the contrast. So I can do that and then do another black and white layer over the top to bring it down. But I never shot that to be black and white, so it doesn't work. That one works because I've got much more punch, much more contrast than the original image. And that's what you're looking for when you convert to black and white. So in that, with the exception of Joe's dress, which is red, I can bring all those skin tones up without affecting the rest of the image. So I can make them pop. Nice and easy, quick and simple. I've already told you about the soft light layer. Shot myself in the foot there, didn't I? Too early. Don't be afraid to have a 15 layer file. Or if you're like me, you do one bit and then you flatten it. And all of that. One good thing about manipulating colours within an image, and this is manipulating the colour before you go black and white to make it where you want it to be, is it doesn't degrade the file. Moving tonal range, so increasing contrast, pushing highlights, pushing mid-tones in general, will degrade the file. But changing colours doesn't. So you can play about with all those colours before you move the black and white. So you might increase the saturation in the reds so that when you actually convert to black and white it goes a different tone and things like that. So what I urge you to try is try different things before you put that black and white on it. Golden rule for me. My next to last, is actually my last stop. My last stage on all images is I pull up a levels layer. You know what I mean by levels layer? You've got 3 points, the black point, white point, mid-tone. You don't touch those when you've got it where you want it. Underneath those, you see 2 boxes that say output. And I enter these 2 numbers, 8 and 245. Okay, and that means my black point on the RGB scale, those values, is no higher, no lower than 8. 0 is pure black. 8 is just slightly off pure black. 245 at the other end, 245 is the maximum density of white that will print on an image. 255 is pure white. So say you're entering a camera club competition or a print comp like I do, or anything else, and you want to print your work on a fine art paper, you want ink on every speck of that paper, even for the whites. If you're at 255, the ink printer won't put any ink down. So you can end up with a dull spot or a highlight that's coming through from the paper underneath if it's a rich white paper. So going 8 and 245 means that every part of that image is printed and within gamma and within range. Okay? Trust me. This is something I have done so much work on in the past, and it's because I prepare my images for print. My final stage then is to add some noise to every image. You know, and I see photographers' faces going, add noise? I spend all my life reducing noise. Embrace the noise. I had 2 to 3% noise, monochromatic and Gaussian, on every single portrait, because it helps fill in the transitions and skin tones. If you pick up a high-end magazine, I was going to say women's magazine, but I'm not saying that anymore, because men read them, and you look at an advert from Clarins, Clinique, and they're promoting these natural skin, you look at that image closely, you'll see noise in the skin, and they're using it to even out tonal graduations. Whenever you're doing anything like this with any file, try not to move the midtones too much, because that creates the artifact. And the problem is that there's all your smooth tonal graduations, Photoshop can only handle so much in the mid-range. And when you push or pull that too much, that's when you create artifacts. Now people call it banding, but it's actually JPEG artifacts. And it's where you see those striations coming in and graduated background. Hence the reason why I'll shoot a graduated background rather than create one afterwards, because I want it as right as possible. And these are all things that makes your life easy. Again, you can't really see this, but this is a really colourful, bright image. I did a straight black and white conversion in the middle, and it's quite flat because of the amount of reds and yellows in that image. And then I've tweaked it in the one on the right. And there's a big difference. Unfortunately, you can't see that on this. A light box. Beautiful soft light in here, but you can't see it. By the way, what colour is this light in this room? Green. It is green. You won't see it as green now because your eyes are all adjusted. But if you go outside and walk back in here, you'll see it's green in here. But your eyes adjust. So even for black and white, I use a grey card on my initial image. Because when I'm shooting multiple setups, I want the skin tone to be the same. And when I convert it to black and white, if the saturation is different and the colours are different in that image, it will change the skin tone even in black and white. Anybody use Devoto that shoots portraits? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Anybody that shoots commercially, this is a game changer. And if you want to grab that QR code and grab some free credits, go for it. Because it makes me look really good in front of them as well. So please grab that QR code and get some free. It's AI image editing portrait software. And I'm going to shoot tethered into it in a minute. And it means what you do is you adjust your sliders for one image to get it where I want. And then I can literally select all the images and synchronize them. Even if the person's in a different place, even if it moves, if it's different angles of the face, and it will synchronize those, retouching. So we've got 12 shoots this weekend in the studio. They'll be retouched by Tuesday afternoon, finished, completed. All 12 shoots. Part of that is because we do instant viewings. So when I shoot portraits in the studio, they then go to Charlie to view straight away. No retouching, no Photoshop, no nothing, straight out of the camera, wash. You very quickly see you can take a photograph when you do things like that. Because they've got no time to polish those things. I mean, we don't polish those defecations. Sometimes we roll them in a little bit of glitter, don't we, just to finish them off. But this is brilliant, and I'll show you in a little bit. And I think that's where we're up to from talking. Now I need 2 volunteers. I'm going to pick my volunteers. I'm not doing yours. Can't cope with you, Jules. Can't cope with you. I need somebody with an interesting look or an interesting face or something a little different for a great masculine presenting portrait. Come on, my volunteer. Can we have a round of applause for our volunteer? So I'm going to switch that off because that's all done and dusted and we're bored with that. And we're going to go into real photographic work. Here we go. So I'm going to shoot tethered. I'm going to shoot straight into here. And then I'll do a quick black and white conversion. I'll do a quick retouch on it in 30 seconds and you'll see how quick it can actually work. Can you have a picture? Yeah, I'm going to take a photograph. It's alright. He's presumptuous, isn't he? You know what I mean? Right, I don't need this for you. But I'm going to bring you forward. Come forward. Right, do a tiny step that way. Perfect. Okay, we're going to change shoulders this way. A little bit more. Great. So that's on my basic head and shoulders we're going to do for this. So I'm going to do a top light setup. And I'm going to tweak it slightly to suit the subject. So obviously I've got my Elinchrom lights. I have my Quadra system here, and I am sponsored by Elinchrom, so I'll make that obvious. And I have been for the last 10 years, but to be honest, I wouldn't use anything else. Except when I had to in America last week, because I didn't have any. So I ended up using my lights. So I'm just using flash. I've got a nice 135 octa-box here, overhead, and I'm looking for, yeah, that's about right, tip of the nose to the top of the softbox. That needs to go an inch. You're very tall, aren't you? Yeah. Okay. So you see I've got a slight angle on this top light softbox. That's to make sure that I'm bringing light forward and I'm not going to create that panda look. What's your name? Hamid. Is that right? Hamid here is about, if I take the tip of the nose and come out to the edge of the softbox, it's about 12 inches to the edge. Okay? So it's not overlit like a 12 o'clock sun. So that means the light's going to feather out of here straight onto there. I then take the tip of the nose this way, and I'm about 12 inches to the height of the back of the softbox. It's just a simple 12-12. Now that could be 18-18, it could be 6-6, but I want to maintain that ratio. So about a 10-degree tilt on the softbox, 12 inches from here to the tip of the nose, here 12 inches as well. And that gives me that nice fall off. So the next thing I want to do is use one of these dreaded things. Everybody that doesn't use them hates them, and everybody that uses them loves them. Anybody use a light meter? Yeah. Anybody ignored me for years and still doesn't use a light meter? Joanne at the back there. This is just a measuring jug, friend. Is anybody scared of them? Be honest. Yeah, right, fantastic, perfect. Just think of it as what we're doing here is creating a recipe of life. So if we're creating a recipe, if we're baking, we have ingredients. So this light is an ingredient in this recipe. Yeah, the 12-12 is another ingredient. When we're baking, if we don't measure our ingredients, we don't get a good cake. Yeah? So just think of this as a measuring jug for light. So I set the ISO, and I'm going to shoot at 80 ISO because that's what my camera shoots best at. I'm going to shoot 125th of a second because that's at 6 speed with the flash. Anything more than that, I get the black curtain. And I'm going to shoot this portrait, I reckon 5.6. Going to bring out a lovely texture in the beard, and it's going to throw my background out of focus, even though it's only 2 feet behind. Okay, so that's my recipe. That's the ingredients I need. So I've put in 80 ISO, I've put in 125th, so pick that measuring jug. So I now need 5.6 amount of light in that jug. So I'm going to test it, and mine's wireless, I connect it to my lights because I'm a bit smart boots. And I like it that way. So here, closest point towards the light, 5.6. So I'm good. Actually it's wrong, because I wanted it to be not right, but it was right. 5.6, so if that said less than 5.6, I haven't got enough light in the measuring jug, so I need to put more light in, so I turn my light up. If it said more than 5.6, I've got too much light in that measuring jug. I need to tip some out and turn it down. That's all it is. That's all a line meter is. We put in those two variables. We make the creative decision for the third, and then we adjust the light to test. Is that okay? Makes it easy, doesn't it, when you talk about it like that? So that's right, ready to go. 5.6. Turn my camera on. Does anybody want to stroke it? She's so pretty. She's so pretty. So I've got the Fujifilm GFX 100 Mark II. There are other cameras available, but they're not this one. And I've got 110mm portrait lens on it, so it's equivalent to medium format to about a 93mm lens. And I'm going to shoot f5.6, ISO 80, 125. So my friend, let's turn it. I'm going to stand on my cable. Thankfully I have my tether tools cable into my tether block that didn't destroy my camera then. And I'm sitting in my spider costume. And that is all my sponsors have. Okay, my friend, I'm still tripping over my cable. Take your shoulders from me a little more, then bring that chin back to me and tip that head very slightly, chin down. Perfect, that's what I want. Let's have an arms folded. Just got good proper folded. Not pretending like this, just hold it as if you would. Just like so, perfect. Got my light where it needs, just cascade it across there. I'm going to take a step back and get that half-length shot. Oh, love it, it's perfect. And that's going to shoot a colour image into there in about 0.3 seconds when the Wi-Fi kicks in. There we go. There we go. Okay, easy as that. I'll do a headshot as well, just to tighten it up. So again, turn the shoulder. Notice how he's moved to look at his picture. This is why I don't shoot tethered in the studio with clients. Okay, my friend, tiny step back because you've done what we call mothing, where they move towards the light. Okay, still fold your arms, what I'm going to do head and shoulders. I get the arms folded because it puts the shoulders in a nice position. Shoulders round a little more, that way. Chin comes back to me, head tips slightly. There we go. Perfect. Now I get the head and shoulders.
Thank you.
That's not. Drop. Perfect. So because my friend here is wearing very light coloured clothing on a dark background, I don't need to put a separation light in. But now I'm going to convert this to black and white. And I'm really sorry that you can't see it properly. Because what I'm going to do is I'm in Evoto here, so it's tethered straight to Evoto. Thank you, my friend. So it's tethered. Can we have him? Give me a look. So I'm going to go to my colour palette here. I'm going to pretend I've shot my grey card because I forgot. Okay, but we did it, didn't we? Yeah. I'm changing my profile from standard to black and white. There's my normal one-click button black and white. I'm then going to look at the colours in the image, and I'm going to look at the colours that my friend is wearing here, and I'm going to come down to where it says black and white, and I'm going to pull down those greens a little bit. I'm going to lift those reds a little bit to just put a little more light into the skin tones and the orange, and I'm happy with that. And I've got my contrast where I want it to be, pretty much straight out of the camera. Yeah? Masculine presenting portrait, done like so. Now if I want to do the retouch, I hate doing this in front of people, you know, but if I now click onto the face on Evoto, it is identified that our subject is male. So it's quite clever. We're going to just give the skin a little clean up. Those late nights and time that he spent working hard on photography, we're just going to get rid of those dark circles with a little slide, and we're just going to gently soften those eye bags. Just like so. We haven't got any wrinkles, maybe a tiny bit on the forehead that I'm going to soften. And obviously there's no double chin because he's doing the thing that I do and hides it in a beard. You know, that's what it is. And then no neck wrinkles, all of that. And we're just going to sculpt that face a touch with a little bit of dodge and burn. And a little bit of, tiny bit of skin smoothing. And now I can just literally hold down command to select the other one, and I can synchronize those. It asks me what I want to synchronize, it'll process that through AI, and now both images are exactly the same. As easy as that. So So if I'd done 20 headshots, they would all be edited to the same degree. Now what I really need now is I've done that beautiful masculine portrait, we agreed, don't we? Is we need a really good female volunteer. Oh, challenge accepted. I get that. Who else gets that in the studio? I'm not photogenic, no. And I'm like, my answer to that is you've never been photographed properly. Would you mind taking your glasses off your head? Oh, in fact, actually, keep them on for a minute. Not on your head, on your face. I'm going to mess something up on purpose here. I'll just show you something else with the water. So just come and stand here. This is not your portrait. Put your glasses on, just for a second. Oh, it's like a dog that's had too much bone meal, isn't it? You know, I want you to look up at that light, and I'm doing this deliberately because I want glare in the glasses here. Colin, this is not the photograph to put up, not the glare glasses one, but I'm going to shoot it just to show you something wrong. So I want you to look up at that light for me, so I can see that I'm going to get glare in the glasses, and that didn't trigger, so let's do a different one. Wait, trigger. Okay. So what I should get now, when this wakes up, is some glasses glare, which is the bane. Anybody shoot schools or high volume stuff? No, they can want that. But it's the bane of people that shoot schools and high volume stuff because they get reflections in glasses. See, I've got reflections in the top of the glass there. Watch the space. This is what converted me to this software. So I slide that slider and it's gone. It's worth its weight in gold. Right, what's your name, man? That's quite like that. That's different. Okay, you can take glasses off for me now. Okay. No, we'll just come and put them on it. Anybody want to put them on eBay while we're waiting? No. Okay, right, first stop shaking. Okay, come forward a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to get you to turn your shoulders away from the light a little bit. So let your feet go with it and then bring your front foot towards me. Okay, and that just puts you in a good stance. Alright, I'm going to add in a second light here. So what I'm going to do, actually let's just go for it. Well, we've got 5 minutes, let's go. We'll kill 3 lights. We'll go 3 lights. Okay, so my key lights, I'm going to put you a little further forward. Awesome. So the same top light, but obviously you're not quite as tall as my previous. Okay, it's not helped, is it? No. Charlie could do with those off the way. We're not telling. So my key light's the same, so let's meter that one up while we're here. And I'm going to go 5.6 again because I like it for headshots. So I brought it a little bit lower and we're still at that 12-12 room. Yeah? You really hate me right now. That's okay, join the list. 5.6. Okay, so I'm going to turn that one off. I'm going to turn that one off because I've been too lazy not to put them all on separate groups. So now I'm going to put a light on the background. You're not allowed to move. So I have here, kindly supplied by Simon at Elinchrom UK, and Elinchrom 3 battery powered. It's really pretty and small. There are other lights, but they're not as pretty. So I'm going to turn that one on, point it. You notice I'm at shoulder height. I don't want the centre of this light to be behind the head because we're not in 1982. Okay, so we're just going to bring it a little lower. I've got it just diffused, just a reflector dish on it, stop it spilling forward. And I want this to be at 2.8 ish. 2, so it needs to turn up. Not enough in the jug. So I'm going to put more in my jug. You need to. Why is it on group 4? Because I didn't press that. Okay, let's try again. 2. Turn it up. Oh, nearly. 2.8. So that's my background. Okay. Why do I want it 2 stops less? Because I don't want to compete with what the light that I'm put on this beautiful subject. Okay. So that's my second light. Third light is I'm going to put, because we've got dark on dark, as in clothing, I'm going to put another light in. So I'll put just this strip box in. Also on a quadra, just like so. Turn it on. Quadra is my old aged battery powered system. It is also supplied by Elecom. It's wonderful. Can I just get you to look forward for 1 second? And I'm aiming this towards the far shoulder. Because it's going to feather onto the near shoulder, but I don't want it going past the cheekbone line on the face. So let's put that on. And I want that. Any light that travels from the rear towards the camera appears 1 stop brighter than it actually is. So this is at 5.6. If I had this one at 5.6, this would overpower the effect. So I want this at least 1 stop less, which is f4, and then just a tiny bit more. So I want it just under f4. So we'll do a little test. There we go. So we put it down. 2.8, so I can turn it up. I'll just turn that one off if I'm not in separate groups. Turn it up from the meter. One more. So it's giving me 2.8 and 7/10. So just under. So now turn them all on. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to kick in my amazing, beautifying, money-making reflector. This is what I call the money-making. Because this can make everybody look good. Not that you need it. Smooth as badger. But this is just going to reduce. We wanted, with this gentleman's portrait, we wanted contrast. More contrast than I want on this beautiful lady. So I'm going to use this to just keep a little bit of light back up. It's not uplighting because it can never overpower the light that's coming down and create that shot. So now, we've got to keep the shoulders just like that. Bring that chin back to me. Tip very slightly. Very slightly. There, just like so. And take a tiny, tiny step that way. There, perfect. It's much easier when I've set all that light up to move this a couple of inches. Okay. So now we are ready with a 3-light portrait straight out of the camera. Beautiful expression. Just relax your shoulders. In fact, bring your hands just in front like this and just overlap. They're not in the shot, but they give a posture. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Because I'm old now, you see, and I forget these things. Can I get you to just hold it? Do your face. And bum, bum. Oh, this light's good. Darn good. Okay, shoulders a little more. Comes back to me. Keep coming around this way. No, don't turn it, just bring your chin round. Tip that head very slightly, chin down. Beautiful smile. Get this what I want. 1 shot, 1 kill. Thank you. So we bring that in. Honestly, I've never seen anybody run away as fast. Okay, so there's my colour image. Now, forgive the projector, I'll try and turn this round. That's where it is in colour. Okay? I'm happy with my lighting, how it all is, that works out pretty well. To use the grey card, I go back to the grey card image. I pick up, go to my colour palette again, and this is the same in Lightroom, Camera Raw, Capture One, all of them. I click on the eyedropper, I click on the grey card, and that sets my colours correct. And then I would sync that across the whole gallery if I was doing colour. But even in black and white I do it because I want my colours correct. So now I go to the image. You don't mind me retouching this in front of me. I was doing it anyway, but I thought I'd ask. Sit down on the floor. So now we're going to go through this. It should, colours are fine as they are. I'm just going to crop very slightly because I don't want that into the arm. Just like so. You see how the eyes are on the third. So, white balance. Let's just come up slightly from that. And then exposure's good where it all is, so I'll move to the retouch palette. We're going to go to just removing any freckles or acne. We're going to just reduce a little bit of face shine because you've got a little bit nervous up there. We're going to get rid of any dark circles and we're going to gently, gently soften any eyelids. Scared. Behind the nose. Okay, we haven't got any issues with double chin, but I actually add a little bit of the double chin thing because it just brings in a little bit more contouring under here. So those lovely lines of experience on this beautiful lady's forehead have now been removed. I'm just going to gently those. Now I don't go over the top. I can make it smooth as a baby's backside, but that isn't real. What I'm doing here is I want my portrait to look like it's the best you can look on your best day. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do that. A little bit here. We've got a tiny bit there. And this is where the real magic happens. A little bit of sculpting, tiny bit of skin softening, and also just on the neckline. And then you see those few flyaway hairs that everybody gets. It's got texture in the hair, obviously not me. We're then going to just remove all those stray hairs with one slider. And then I'm just going to go back to my colour palette, which will remove all the retouching effect, because what I forgot to do was convert it to black and white. Just tweak that black and white where I want it to be, tiny bit more dark on the reds and orange. Keep those yellows, bring the green down a little bit, go back to there, hit that, and we've finished that portrait. Done and dusted in 30 seconds. Thank you, both of you guys, for volunteering. And that has been done.